What did we learn about Solskjaer's Manchester United? Fulham 1, Manchester United 2, a tactical analysis. For cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to www.jerseyfever.com, a link will be left in the description, and use coupon code atlantisfootball for 5% off. Before this video starts, just give me 40 seconds to tell you about the OneFootball app. It's the app I use to keep you up to date with the latest football news, and I find it particularly useful during the transfer window, as they have a section on the app that has all the latest done deals in the transfer window, as well as the circulating rumours. If you go onto the match section, you can find statistics from pretty much any match from any league in the world, which is what I like to do for games I'm not able to watch in full, to give myself a general idea of how the game went, as well as the style of both teams in the match. If you're a fan of this channel, you'll definitely find this app useful, and you'll be helping to support the channel directly. So go and click the link in the description below to get the OneFootball app. So going into the game, Scott Parker lined up his side in a 5-4-1 system with Areola in goal, a back three of Adarabioyo, Anderson and Anya, with Brian playing as the left wing back, Tete as a right wing back, as Anguissa and Harrison Reed played as a midfield double pivot, Loftus-Cheek played from the right of the midfield four, Cavallero from the left, and Lookman started as a centre forward. Solskjaer used a 4-2-3-1 system with De Gea in goal, a centre-back pairing of Bailly and Maguire. Wan-Bissaka started at right back, Shaw at left back, with Pogba and Fred playing as a midfield double pivot. Fernandes started in front of them, with Martial playing from the left flank, Greenwood from the right flank, and Cavani playing as a centre forward. From the start of the game, we saw United using their usual 2-4-3-1 possession shape, with Pogba and Fred playing as a deep double pivot. Scott Parker used a 5-4-1 system in order to have the wide midfielders Loftus-Cheek and Cavallero sit narrow out of possession, occupying central positions. His side didn't engage United high up the pitch frequently, instead allowing United's deeper players to have the ball in their own half. This narrow positioning of the wide midfielders was used in order to close off the space that Fred and Pogba would have either side of the centre forward Lookman, whilst opening up space out wide for United to play down the flanks. We did see Klopp deploy a similar tactic in United's previous game, though coordinated with a higher press, but Liverpool, like Fulham, used a narrow front three, which is what sides are beginning to do in order to stop United's progression of the ball through the centre of the pitch. I spoke in my analysis of the Aston Villa and Burnley games how Solskjaer was instructing the left-sided central midfielder to drop wide and deep to create a temporary back three in order to create a wider base for United to then circulate the ball around the opposition's front two. However, now opposition sides are pressing with a narrow front three to give their frontline press more width, making it harder for United to play around them. I won't go into a lot of detail on this possession tactic that Solskjaer likes to use, as I covered them in my analysis of those Manchester United games, which will be linked below in the description. Forcing United to build out through their fullbacks is something that sides have been trying to do for a while now, and it's because Shaw but mainly Wan-Bissaka aren't great at receiving the ball and driving forward quickly, or being able to play a pass into a United player between the lines of the opposition system when they receive the ball in these positions. Shaw has improved in this area, but Wan-Bissaka still is nowhere near the level he needs to be, as in this game when the ball went out to him, he often needed 2 or 3 touches to get the ball out of his feet and get moving forward, making it easy for Fulham to then shuffle across and close up the spaces between the lines. We see here an example in the first few minutes. Fulham press high, which they didn't do often in the first half. Cavallero retains a narrow position, forcing Bailly to play the pass into Wan-Bissaka. Wan-Bissaka receives the ball and is erratic with his movement forward. He can't get the ball under full control to find a pass and ends up giving the ball away in United's half. In the first 30 minutes, Fulham were successful at stopping United working the ball into the likes of Fernandes and Greenwood between the lines, and managed to take the lead themselves. We see here that as Fulham have possession, United have dropped into their 4-2-3-1 shape, and the problem starts when the ball goes into Anguissa. Fernandes should probably be moving across quicker to cut off this pass into the Fulham central midfielder to stop him turning with the ball. However, once this happens, a bigger problem occurs in the back line. Maguire is aware that Loftus-Cheek has a passing lane open here, but should just hold his position centrally, as Shaw is in a good position to his left, narrow enough to recover if Loftus-Cheek does receive the ball, and Fred is here as well, probably able to intercept the pass if it does go into Loftus-Cheek from Anguissa. Instead, Maguire gets attracted to Loftus-Cheek and opens up a massive space between him and Bailly in the centre of the back line. Many may say that Pogba should have tracked Lookman's run, but the central midfielder cannot be responsible for following a centre forward's run in behind the back line. Bailly should also be more proactive in moving across to close up this gap, but doesn't, which allows Lookman to make the run, and Guiza plays a perfectly lofted pass into his path, and Lookman drives the ball low and hard past De Gea to give Fulham the lead. I think this goal showcased the difference between good centre-backs and great centre-backs, as I think someone like Van Dijk or Sergio Ramos gets their positioning better from this phase of play, or at the very least can organise a backline with more authority. Out of possession, we saw United setting up in their usual 4-2-3-1 pressing shape. However, unlike most bottom-end Premier League sides, Fulham are committed to playing out from the back and used a 3-4-3 possession shape. United would look to press them in their defensive third, keeping Martial and Greenwood narrow to force a pass out to the wing-backs, from where United's full-backs could then push up the pitch. The central midfielder on that side could then push over and look to pin Fulham in order to win the ball back. But Fulham were quite effective at playing out of United's press by playing these horizontal passes across the back line and then out to the wing backs before them playing a quick inside pass into one of the double pivot, either Harrison Reed or Anguissa, who could then turn out with the ball. However, what was evident was that Fulham didn't have the creative ability to break down United, as often when Harrison Reed or Anguissa did manage to progress the play into the final third, Fulham's lack of attacking quality to then create from these positions was clear. Fulham, despite defending well for the first 30 minutes, fell into the trap of dropping deeper and deeper and allowing Pogba and Fred too much time on the ball in the Fulham half. We saw an example of this here when Fred was able to pick up the ball in the Fulham defensive third and play a pass into Fernandes on the edge of the box for him then to be able to turn and hit the post from a resulting shot. United then equalised a few moments later as Fred and Fernandes played a good 1-2 down the left-sided channel, and Fernandes put in a low cross into the box which was begging for a front post run from Greenwood, which didn't come. However, Areola fumbled the ball right into Cavani's path, who had the anticipation and reaction speed to knock the ball into the empty net. So going into half-time at 1-1 wasn't a disaster for United, but this was a typical type of game where in-game tactical creativity and possession is needed from the manager, and it's why Klopp and Guardiola's side have been so good in the last 2 or 3 seasons at winning these type of tactical battles. Against a deep 5-4-1 with a narrow midfield, what United could have done is move to a 4-3-3 shape, which would have allowed them to keep the 2 wide attackers wide, stretching the back 5 whilst also having the 2 advanced midfielders sitting in between the lines of the Fulham defence and midfield. The fullbacks could have then inverted in possession, which would have given United a numerical advantage in the middle of the park, causing Fulham's midfield to have a dilemma as to whether to push out to these inverted fullbacks or allow them space by sitting deeper and closing off the space between the lines. However, I do think that Solskjaer is slightly limited by the personnel he has. Wan-Bissaka isn't good enough on the ball to be used as an inverted fullback, nor does he have the dribbling and crossing ability necessary to play a winger-like role down that right flank. United also don't have natural wingers in the side, with Greenwood, Martial and Rashford far better when being allowed to move in field, and Daniel James isn't really good enough to come on and change the game against a side sitting deep and not allowing space in behind. So in the second half there wasn't much change tactically from United. What happened was Fulham pushed up the field and started to engage United in their defensive third, pressing in a 3-3-1 shape, with one midfielder now pushing up onto Fred in that deeper position. What this meant was that now United were playing a lot more long balls forward, particularly out to the fullbacks. However, there was now more space in central midfield for United to progress the ball if they managed to work the ball around Fulham's press. The goal did come from an individual moment of brilliance, and once again it was Paul Pogba. He did excellently to control the ball and manoeuvre it onto his left foot before curling it into the far corner, giving United the lead. So despite United going on to win the game and deserving to as well, with an XG of 1.68 to Fulham 0.75, there were a few weaknesses that were exposed in this game. The first was at centre back and the problem that Maguire and Bailly have with covering space centrally when one is forced to move into a wider position, which we did see with Fulham's goal and in the second half when Maguire got his body positioning wrong, allowing a pass to be slipped down the side of him, releasing Loftus-Cheek on goal. Maguire should be more aware of Loftus-Cheek's run and should position himself a little further over towards him to cut off the passing lane easily and stop the chance being created. Another weakness was in central midfield when Fred was left isolated. Fred, whilst being an excellent pressing central midfielder, reading the game well to push up and engage the midfield press, while also having great energy and being a good circulator of the ball in possession, he isn't a great one-on-one defender in the middle of the park, which we saw as Loftus-Cheek was able to powerfully dribble past Fred, exposing United's whole central midfield, and but for a poor final ball would have set Lookman through on goal again. This is where a top-level ball winner like Ndidi or Idrissa Gueye would add a lot of value to the side, particularly in games when Solskjaer doesn't want to play 2 holding central midfielders in the double pivot and it's left to just one of the midfielders to break up counter-attacks. but overall I think Solskjaer deserves credit. The side seemed to have improved massively defensively from the start of the season, and his management of Pogba in particular has been very impressive. Getting great performances out of him when under a manager like Mourinho, Pogba would have been exiled from the starting 11, and United would have drastically missed this creativity and would have dropped points in quite a few recent games without Pogba in the side. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that video, remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out some of my other videos linked in the description below. Give the video a like and follow me on my social medias as well for more content.